Good afternoon. This is Felipe Ortiz, participating in the meeting, trustee.
Hi, Trustee Ortiz. This is Floresto, CFO of the district. Raven, are you representing BDO and Chris Farthing today?
Hi, no, I am with Keith Rogers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, you're okay.
I just wanted to, get an idea of who's attending. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, my apologies, Floresto and team, for not announcing that when I joined, that Raven was in with me.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Thank you, Dr. Rogers.
Sandra Raymaker joined.
Okay, Floresto, we can go ahead and get started if you confirm that we have our guests with us.
They are not online yet. Lynn, do you think you can follow up with BDO to make sure that they can join shortly? Oh, I'm sorry. Here's Chris Farthing with BDO just joined us. So Dr. Rogers, I can begin whenever you're ready.
All right, then let's go ahead and officially call the meeting to order. We'll start with roll call. See, Dr. Rogers, it's me, I'm present. We'll see if Kelly Benavides is with us. I'm not hearing the Kellys. I think she said she would not be able to join. Sandra Randmaker.
Here.
Nathaniel Wall.
I'm here.
And Brian Wilson. All right, well, I'm showing that we have a quorum of our committee. So we will, Lynn, if you're with us, if you could read the public comment or let us know if we have anyone signed up for public comment.
Good afternoon, Chair Rogers. You do have a quorum and there is no public comment at this time.
All right, we'll go to agenda item number 3, our committee action to accept the proposed agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Raymaker.
I'll second.
Did you get that, Lynn? Sandra
Yes, it was
Randmaker
Trustee Randmaker.
and Trustee Wah second. So
Thank you.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. New business. We will go to agenda item A, discussion and possible committee action regarding a recommendation to accept the fiscal year 2020-2021 audit report and recommendation approval of the fiscal year 2020 audit for the Board of Trustees meeting on November the 10th. And I'll turn it over to you, Floresto, to walk us through this agenda item as well as the next agenda item for the financials.
Thank you, Chair Rogers. For the record, I am Floresto Cabayas, Chief Financial Officer for the district. And in March 2021, the board designated BDO USA to perform the financial statement audit for the district for the year ending June 30th, 2021. Chris Farthing is a partner with BDO and he'll be presenting the results of their audit. I'd just like to thank Chris and his team for the hard work that they did on the audit. It went very smoothly and they made great efforts to meet our timeline and was also very thorough. You'll hear Chris present the items in his audit wrap-up presentation, and I'll just comment on the corrected adjustment that's noted in the audit wrap-up. It speaks for itself. I think it's pretty clear in the audit wrap-up. I'll just add that the $293,000 noted there related to lease payments between the library district and the East Las Vegas Qualic B. Staff considers insignificant. It's the cumulative effect of lease payments going all the way back to fiscal year 2018. And we believe it's not a material amount because it represents less than a fraction of a percent compared to all relevant balances in the district's financials, from the net position to totals found in the governmental balance sheet and statement of revenues and expenditures. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Farthing to present the results of his audit. And Chris, do you want to share your screen from here?
His screen was shared momentarily, and now it's not shared any longer. Okay, I can see his screen. I'm assuming everyone else can too.
Yes, I can see it. Chris, you're currently muted.
Apologies. All right. Is everybody able to see the slide deck?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Floresto. Thank you to the committee. As Floresto said, the audit went well. So I will go through our report here. Also on the phone, we have Yinky, our audit manager. And as Floresto said, my name is Chris Farthing. I'm the partner with BDO that did the audit in the current year. Hopefully everybody had a chance to see these materials ahead of time, but I'll take you through the key items. Page 3 is just a letter describing the results of our audit. Jumping to the executive summary on slide 5. As noted here, the objective of an audit is to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance over the financial statements. The scope of the audit was substantially the same as in our audit planning presentation that was provided to the committee previously. We expect to issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, and we expect to date a report tomorrow, November 10th, which will be the date that the board approves the final report. We also expect to issue our report on internal control over financial reporting in accordance with government auditing standards. And then, as described in the engagement letter and the other documents in the report, our responsibility for the other information in the financial statements, including the management discussion and analysis, post-employment benefit obligations, does not extend to the beyond the information included in the audit report. We're not required to perform procedures specifically on that information, but we do read it for consistency with information obtained in our audit and in the audit report. As noted in the second to last bullet here, all information was freely available. Management fully cooperated with our requests throughout the audit, and we obtained audit support as requested. Results for our audit. There were no significant changes in accounting policies during the current year. The accounting policies are described in note 2 to the financial statements. And then significant estimates are described here to the right, which include fair value of financial instruments, net pension liabilities, and other post-employment benefit obligations. And management did not make any significant changes in their approach to valuing those items in the current year. I'll skip forward to slide number 8. And as Floresto already mentioned, there was a cumulative catch-up of rent expense at the East Las Vegas Quag B. This goes back to 2018. There was a small error related to straight lining the rent over the rent period, the expected lease term. It's again, like he said, it's not material. It's more than a trivial threshold, so we thought it warranted attention of the board, but we do not believe it's material and do not require a restatement or any correction. It's just it's a minor item that doesn't have any material impact on the operations of the library district. I'll pause if anybody has any questions on that item. If not, I'll continue on to slide number 9 and 10, which is our internal control over financial reporting. As part of our audit, we consider the district's internal controls, but we do not direct our audit towards obtaining assurance over the internal control over financial reporting. So there may be significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that we did not identify. However, we did not identify any of those in the current audit. And so the definition of a control deficiency, significant deficiency, and material weakness are included here. We did not identify anything that we consider to be material weakness. Moving on to slides 12 through 13, there are just a few other required communications. There's really nothing too significant here. We did, so first off, there are no significant changes in our audit strategy. No violations of law or apparent violations of law. We did use specialists as part of our audit, and those are specialists within BDO, specifically for valuing investments and for valuing pension and OPEB obligations. And basically, they review the information provided by management's experts, and we had no issues identified in those areas. We did not consult with other accountants on any significant matters, and we're not aware of any consultations that management had regarding any significant matters. During the component auditor procedure, there were no significant findings that warrant attention of the district. And we evaluated related party relationships and transactions, and we identified no issues with those. No other significant findings or issues were identified during the audit that were subject to correspondence with management. Last page here, over page 14, there were no significant disagreements with management that were not resolved. There were no significant difficulties encountered during the audit, no difficult or contentious matters that were consulted outside the engagement team. No other matters that we consider significant to the district's financial reporting process. And then finally, we do obtain a management representation letter from management that we will obtain tomorrow. Nothing significant in there that the committee needs to be aware of. Finally, on slide 15, we are independent of the library district, as noted in our engagement letter dated March 19th. The remaining items in the presentation are just matters for the committee's information. They relate to implementation of new standards, other information that BDO makes available to committees. There's nothing that I want to highlight or bring to anybody's attention here, but I will take questions on any of those slides or anything else that the committee may have questions on. That is the end of my prepared remarks. So if there's nothing else, I'll turn it back to Floresto or to the committee.
And then I'll turn it over to each board member who's present to see if you have any follow-up questions. All right, I counted 3 Mississippi, so there are no questions. So I'm assuming we are all comfortable with the presentation. So I will move to see, do we have a motion to accept the reports?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to accept the fiscal 2020-2021 audit report and recommend approval of the fiscal year 2020-2021 audit as presented by the auditors at the Board of Trustees meeting on November 10th, 2021.
Do we have a
I'll
second? All right, we call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Floresto, we'll turn over to you for our second agenda item for action.
Okay, will do, Chair Rogers. Just wanted to thank again, Chris and Yinki. You can stick around for this financial update for the committee, or otherwise, thanks again for your time and for your presentation tonight.
Thank you. I think we'll stick around for the financial presentation, but
Okay, no problem. Dr. Rogers, I'll start sharing my screen here.
Okay.
And hopefully everyone can see the slide presentation.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We just went over the audit of the financial statements for the district for 2021, but I still thought it was worth highlighting some of the relevant points there. Of course, there's always our revenues. And as you can see, we had higher expectations going into the end of fiscal year 2021, but some of the numbers, the property taxes and the consolidated sales tax, the CTX in particular, came in even higher than expected. For the CTX, for example, we expected roughly $23.5 million after seeing the economic indicators. And that came in at $24 million, which was almost $1 million higher than even our adjusted expectations, but it's actually $6.4 million higher than the budget, which we understand was conservative when prepared at the time. And property taxes themselves also came in at $753,000 higher than budgeted. On
Excellent.
the expenditure side, you can see that due to our due diligence and the conservative spending practices that started at the very beginning of the pandemic, not to mention our traditional approach, you can see the savings here, especially in total personnel costs. And that was due to, greatly due to the investment in the Voluntary Employee Separation Program, or the VESP. That cost $4.5 million. And so the $2.7 million in total savings that we realize in personnel costs is significant, considering the outflow of cash for the VESP. And we also have to acknowledge the cooperation of the Teamsters Local 14 union, who agreed to concessions, freezing many of the personnel costs during fiscal year 2021. So that led to savings of almost $3 million for the end of the fiscal year. We also was proactively managing costs in supplies and services. As I mentioned here, we scrutinized all contracts and other controllable expenditures and was able to realize a savings there of over $3 million. We allowed for the entire expenditure of capital outlay, which represents the library materials, but it turned out that based on the needs of the collection, we left $1.3 million unspent because we don't exhaust the budget where not necessary. So in total, we saw $7 million in savings for expenditures compared to the budget. And the combination of saved expenditures and additional revenues, of course, flows down to the ending fund balance. And you can see we're at $31 million at the end of fiscal year 21, which is $16 million higher than budgeted. And it's even higher than our adjusted or expected ending fund balance, which we knew would be higher for fiscal year 2021. So that takes us to the current fiscal year and our expected revenues and expenditures in fiscal year 2022. Now, for the current fiscal year, we only have 1 month of CTX revenues available to review, at least as of the time of the preparation of these slides and for reporting to the board. Since then, we also received another CTX collection in October that represents the month of August. But as you can see here, for the July 2021 CTX, that number came in significantly higher than the prior year, 2020, and even higher than the pre-pandemic year of 2019. And there are many reasons for this increase, but it just gives us an indicator that the CTX, at least for the time period, has recovered, and we expect that to continue throughout the fiscal year. I mentioned that we also received the October CTX representing August recently, and that came in 28% higher than the same month a year ago. So that's in line with the 31% we received in September for the month of July. And we don't expect that 30% increase between the 2 months to continue throughout the entire fiscal year, but it definitely appears as though the projected CTX will be much higher than budgeted and even higher than our recent expectations. As you can see, this is how the total or annual CTX for the year looks, going all the way back to 2019, which is the latest full pre-pandemic year. It actually dropped between that year and 2020, where the economy was shut down for months, going into 2021, where, as we just discussed, it recovered to $24 million because of factors such as stimulus, pent-up demand, the restrictions lifting over the economy. And so that came in better than expected. And that drove an expectation for the fiscal year ended 2022, the current year we're in, to reach as high as $26 million. Going into the end of the fiscal year for 2021, we thought that number would be closer to around 25 million, but seeing the July and August CTX come in, we expect that to be closer to $26 million, and it could be even higher depending on how long the momentum we're seeing in the economy continue.
Excuse me, Forresto, I just wanted to state for the record that Trustee Wilson has joined the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. And here's a graph that we often present of the property tax revenues. And as you can see, it's continuing its positive trend upwards. Even during the beginning of the pandemic, we weren't concerned about property tax revenues because of the nature of how those taxes are levied and what we were seeing in the real estate market. And I'm sure that everyone here is aware of the most recent news of what's happening in the real estate market. So our confidence in collecting property taxes as budgeted, if not higher, continues through the current fiscal year. In this slide, we present the numbers from July through October, basically how much in property taxes we collected during that period and compared it to prior fiscal years. And you can see, even for those few months in the current fiscal year, it's moving forward exactly as we expected in an upward trend compared to the last 2 fiscal years. And before I get to expenditures, I just would like to comment on the recent Vista economic outlook that occurred this morning. Myself and many of the trustees attended and heard the forecast from many experts in the field that analyze the Southern Nevada economy on a daily basis. And the information they presented there supports our conclusions here. They really did a deep dive on the analytics of, or the mechanisms of action that are driving these positive numbers that we're seeing here at the district and across the Nevada economy. So I just wanted to point that out, that there's a really multifactorial reason for what we're seeing, even after coming off of a very challenging pandemic year and a half is what we were looking at. So these numbers are really based on solid fundamentals, which is why we're comfortable with these estimates. And we can't control revenues, but what we can control are our expenditures. So here we show the period from July to September 2022 and what we spent so far in the current fiscal year. And you can see that the number is $15 million for fiscal year 22, and that's actually lower than the prior two fiscal years for the same period. For fiscal year 2020, that amount is a full year of pre-pandemic, well, mostly a full year of pre-pandemic expenditures. In fiscal year 2021, that number is actually higher because of payments for the voluntary employee separation program, along with other costs related to things like personal protective equipment as a result of the pandemic. The reason for the drop from fiscal year 2021 to fiscal year 2022, I already alluded to. They're primarily due to personnel costs and savings in personnel costs, along with controlled supplies and services expenditures. And this is another good example of how our investment in the VESP is continuing to pay dividends in the current fiscal year and likely going into future fiscal years. So this is our estimate of the entire general fund for the rest of fiscal year 22. As you can see, based on the factors I've discussed, we expect another $2.8 million in total revenues compared to the original budget. We expect to save another $6 million in expenditures compared to the budget. And the bottom line is, because of the $31 million we just discussed at the end of fiscal year 2021, that's our starting point, and we end up with $27 million in the general fund at the end of fiscal year 2022. That takes us into the capital projects fund, because the ending fund balance, of course, in the general fund, I apologize for jumping around slides here, will be the surplus here over our minimum required threshold will be transferred over to capital projects. And during the pandemic year, because of the economic challenges we were anticipating and being prepared for, we maintained at least a 20% percentage of expenditures to ending fund balance in order to maintain a reserve in case of further downturns. Because of the higher than expected ending fund balance, that'll provide more funds that are available to transfer to the capital projects fund. And this is another review of where we stand in the capital projects fund as of the end of the last audited fiscal year, 2021. And the fund balance, as you can see here, did actually drop from the beginning of the fiscal year, but that's mostly due to transfers not being made from the general fund to the capital projects fund, which is traditional in a year when we're not facing any economic downturns and challenges. But you can see in expenditures here, we were very conservative on our spending, because the budget actually represents a scaled down version that only provided enough resources to fund critical programs in the capital projects funds. And just like with our approach in the general fund, we don't exhaust the budget just for the sake of spending those funds. We want to maintain a consistent savings mindset that's really served the district well in the past and will do so going forward. And so we still saved $2.7 million in expenditures during the full pandemic year. And although that resulted in a decrease in ending fund balance for 2021, leaving us with $7.9 million in ending fund balance, we do have a transfer budgeted in the current fiscal year of $19 million that will replenish the reserves in critical programs and also contribute to future projects. And this is an estimate of where we expect to be at the end of fiscal year 22 for the capital projects funds. And if we jump down to the ending fund balance, you can see that as a result of the $19 million transfer, we're up to 20.9, nearly $21 million in ending fund balance. And this is just in time for the implementation of the Playbook 2026 and other projects that the district and this board has prioritized going forward. And I'd also like to add that this is where we expect to be at the end of fiscal year 20. But as you've probably will be transferred over depending on our, I'm sorry, can everyone still hear me? I'm getting a warning from Zoom here. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. I just want to make sure I was still online here. But the last point I was making was that where we ended up or expect to end up at the end of 22 with a $21 million fund balance, and we should be able to add on top of that in fiscal year 2023. Those are factors I'll be discussing with this committee further in future finance and audit meetings. But I just wanted to allude to the upcoming fiscal year and that we can probably match based on our current expectations, this $19 million or more, depending on, again, the momentum of the economy and our continued savings and conservative spending practices, along with the expected surplus of revenues, assuming that we don't face additional challenge. And I will acknowledge, as did many of the experts during the economic outlook this morning, that there are headwinds that are possible and even likely something that we'll have to face in the longer term. And so again, that's where I would emphasize the importance of our budget approach, so that we're able to stay resilient like we always have during these financial challenges, and at the same time give the district the opportunity to have the resources in place to fund critical projects and other priorities. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Okay, I'll open up to any of my fellow trustees to see if there are any questions of Foresto. All right, hearing there are no questions, and I know Foresto and I went through this yesterday, but I think it's a thorough, measured approach to the budget. It's great to see that we're in a financially healthy position, and even though we're trending to be through the pandemic. So Foresto, thank you definitely for all of your hard work and putting together the numbers. I think that you all have done an outstanding job, and I think as a board we are very comfortable where we are fiscally. So thank you for the update.
Thank you.
And then Lynn, I will transition to public comment to see if there are if anyone has logged in.
Yeah, Rogers, there's no public comment, but I also did want to state for the record that Trustee Ortiz has attended the entire meeting, though he's not on the committee. He's a board member. Thank you.
Okay. And then certainly Trustee Ortiz, when I opened up to questions, that certainly included you as well, if you had any questions.
Not at all. Thank you, Chair.
All right, well, I think that concludes our business today. So I will officially go ahead and adjourn today's meeting. I don't think we needed to do a motion to adjourn. Did we, Councilman Welk?
You can go either way, whatever you're comfortable with.
All right, we'll just go ahead and adjourn. Thank you, team, for all the hard work and getting all the documents together. And thank you, board members, for joining us. I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow.
Thank you, Chair, for scheduling this not to conflict with hockey. See everyone tomorrow.
All right. Have a
All
great
right,
day, everyone.
take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Felipe. I think he jumped off.